Hello and welcome to Move to Japan. I am Nathan, the host and creator of Move to Japan, and this is the third in our conversational video series where we speak to people who have moved from their own country to Japan. These people are a great source of insights and information about moving to Japan from a foreign country, where they share their experiences in applying for visas, looking for jobs, learning a language, cultural differences, making friends, and all this type of stuff related to moving and living in Japan. So I've started these videos so I can learn from these people and share what they have to say with other people like me who like Japan and maybe want to move there as well. I definitely have an interest in Japan and want to move there, so listening to these people, I'm learning so much about what it's like to move there and live there from these people, even though only been 3 videos in. So yeah, great source of information. So today's conversation is with Ben. He's a fellow Brit and YouTuber. His YouTube channel is called The Great Mooch. It's all based in Japan, and I've linked to The Great Mooch in the description. So if you want to have a look at Ben's videos, feel free to do that, but make sure you wait until after you watch this one first, so you don't want to miss out or forget to watch this conversation with Ben. So without further ado, let's get over to Ben's conversation and see what he has to say. Let's go. Great. So thanks for Ben for doing this video. So tell me about moving to Japan. Let's go back to the start and maybe tell us why you moved to Japan, how that came about.
Sure, man. Thanks for letting me on. Thanks for chatting to me, man. So I first came to Japan in 2012 until 2015. I just finished university, came out, was like an English teacher for a bit in Osaka and like Kansai area. So during that time was like a Kaiwa person, teacher. I'd never been to Asia before. Basically finished university, and you're at the bottom of the jobs market, aren't you? You've got your degree, and you come out of university like, I'm ready to go to this company, and it was just not happening, nothing really moving. The recession was still this was 2012, so things were still kind of like, the jobs market was still kind of volatile, and obviously like young people, well, I was back then, but young people are always struck hard by recessions. When you come out of university with your degree, not much professional experience. So a guy that I knew at college was a manager in Eikaiwa in Osaka, and we were talking, and he was like, do you want to come and teach in Japan? And I was kind of like, I've got nothing else to do to shout about. So I just literally sold a bunch of stuff, cancelled my gym membership and left. And it was a bit messy because I just didn't really think too much about it. I just kind of went with it. So I went on like a tour, was it a tourist visa, working holiday visa, and got a job straight away at the Eikaiwa, and never done teaching, never been like in a classroom or anything, setting or anything like that, and just kind of had to just pick it up. And then obviously my Japanese, like, couldn't speak like a word of Japanese at that time, didn't know anything, didn't know even like how to speak properly to Japanese people, in that, like, how to speak clearly and to kind of like separate your language into just easy chunks of words, instead of just like I'm from Manchester, so we've got our own accents and stuff. And I just had to at first I was like terrible, no one understood what I was saying, or the feedback wasn't that great, but then I just kind of had to get better at it and did. And that was about a year. So during that time, I was sort of, partying still, drinking, going out in Osaka quite a lot. Every other night, Friday nights, weekends, especially, just getting absolutely hammered and just living that foreigner life of not much responsibility, just kind of going to work and then after work beers and eating whatever, drinking whatever.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. And then I was kind of like a bit kind of, I think after doing it for a year, I was a bit like, I don't really know much about Japan. I kind of hang around foreigners and hang around like American, British people, Canadian people, and I'm having a good time, but I'm not really, I've not really learned the language, and I've not immersed myself in any way other than just doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I took a few lessons in Japanese, moved to a few different companies, tried to kind of branch out in different ways. So like I moved in with a host family for a while, picked up some more Japanese, and got really into teaching at that time. And so I left in 2015, came back to England and did my teacher training and became a primary teacher.
Okay. Sounds great. Yeah. Sounds great. So there was no interest in Japan before you really went there? You just, okay, I'm struggling to find a job, and then you just ended up in Japan. Was there no interest with anime or manga or the food really, or anything before?
Not really. If I'm honest, not really. I mean, I think every other person that you would ask in the UK would be interested in Japan anyway. Not everyone's obviously into like Pokemon or manga or whatever. Everyone just kind of wants to kind of experience life there. Anyway, so I was very much in that mindset of like, it's a different culture, it's a different place. Why not challenge myself to see what I can do, and if I can network, and if I can kind of make some sort of life out there. But no, in terms of like manga and stuff, I watched a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! I thought that was all right. Okay. But no, I mean, like, respect to people that like all that sort of stuff, that's fine. But no, man, just as soon as I kind of got there, I just had to sort of hit the ground running and just get on with life. And yeah, it was very, very hard. Other than kind of my foreigner bubble of friends, it was very, very hard getting around. I couldn't hear Japanese very well. It was obviously, for people that have never heard anything like Japanese, I couldn't even kind of like, what would happen when I was teaching in the Eikaiwa, they would give me like a folder of a student, but it was written in English. I still couldn't read their names very well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not even like, you read katakana and you can just sound it out and it's like, oh, that's their name. But their names were just written in Romaji or in English, but I still couldn't even just just basically had no background in the language whatsoever. So yeah, that was pretty difficult. But yeah, over time, just had a few more lessons. But when I came home, I had to just drop it because, teacher training in England is really, really full on. Couldn't really continue it. So I had to pick it up. So I came here last year in June, and I've had to just keep going and kind of get back on track with it and stuff.
Okay. So very roundabout journey you've been on, then, where it's been a little bit more difficult, and where if you were interested in Japan and you thought, okay, I want to learn the language, or even if you'd watched a lot of anime, you'd obviously watch the character speaking in Japanese, yeah, you'd have the subtitles, but at least you would have heard it a lot more than what you're used to, and then that would have made it easier to understand and read when you moved to Japan. I guess. I mean, I'm not an anime fan. I hardly watch it at all. I just have a general interest in Japan, purely from when I went to Tokyo in 2018. And I mean, I've tried to watch anime, but because it's all subtitled and I can't understand the Japanese of it yet, I if I miss 2 minutes of an anime, I will lose the whole track of the other episode and what's going on. They'll introduce a new character or something, and I'm like lost. And who's this new guy? I don't have a clue. Then I got to watch the episode again, and I'm like, I can't be asked for this. So if I just get a text message on my phone or my housemate says hello or something, I get distracted, then I've missed an episode or two because I'm having a chat instead of watching the episode. Because I need, obviously with subtitles, you need to sit down, you need to read it to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I can't be asked for this. I'd rather have something that's speaking in English. I want to try and enjoy it. It's like reading a book more than watching a movie or TV show.
Yeah.
So I kind of, not that I can't read subtitles, obviously, but it's just okay. If it's not a lot of the popular ones, there's so many episodes of them that I'm like going back to the start and kind of even going through the main storylines to kind of catch up on the main points of the storyline, main character points or story points or whatever. There's still a lot of them, and there's things like Yu-Gi-Oh and Dragon Ball and all these other famous animes. There's thousands of episodes of them, hundreds of thousands of episodes of them, and I'm not going to sit through all them and catch up. I begrudge the Western the TV shows where, like, especially the older ones like The Sopranos and things like that, where back in the 80s, 90s, and so on, early 2000s, there was 20 episodes a season, and they were all an hour long. And there's 7 or 8 episodes. I've never watched The Sopranos, but I got friends who love it and say, watch that. But I'm not going to sit down for 20 hours a season for 7 or 8 seasons and to catch up on it. It's like, it's too much. I mean, if it was only 2 seasons of it, then yeah, fair enough, I might do it. But I'm not going to use all that time up just to watch it. Something that's so old as well. So I'm like, okay, I'm cool. I might read some manga. Cause that's got a couple of Jinjo Ito books. But again, I'm not a big fan of it. I've only got a couple of books of it, so I'm like, okay, I'm obviously not a big fan of it. So if you were a fan, you'd have bookshelves full of manga, and you've watched hours and hours of anime, and you probably do some cosplaying or stuff like that as well. And I'm just like, no, I'm not into that stuff. I'll learn the language instead, which is harder but more practical, I guess.
Well, I can see you've got, is that Genki 1 and 2?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, so kind of going through the first one at the minute. So kind of been studying on and off since I went to Japan in 2018. Been studying on and off. I'm probably about halfway through the Genki 1 book, the first one, the orange one. Got a few other books on kanji and stuff there as well to because the kanji in the Genki books aren't the most clear because they're quite small characters in Genki. So I thought, okay, I'll get a different book to learn them. I mean, I had a tutor for a few months. I went through 3 of them last year, where they were concentrating more on the grammar side of things rather than vocabulary or kanji. And what I've been struggling on is getting the vocabulary right. As you probably know, you have, especially with the verbs, you have O and Ru verbs and E and R adjectives. When I first started learning them, I didn't learn them in them separate groups. I just learned them in math form rather than dictionary form. Yeah. So when it came to learning the grammar, like te form and other forms, because I couldn't conjugate them properly because I didn't know what they ended in. So I got frustrated. I keep taking breaks to try and catch up. And then when I think I caught up, then I go back to lessons, and it never worked. So now I'm just going to study on my own. So
yeah, it is so hard. And like, I have a weekly teacher. Actually, she lives in Manchester. She's a Japanese lady, which is obviously, like if you live in Manchester, or where are you? Wales?
I'm in Cardiff.
Oh, Cardiff, right. Yeah. I mean, finding a if you wanted to progress, it's like where are you going to find a Japanese? Like what are the odds there's going to be a Japanese person in these areas, and what are the odds they're going to be a teacher? Maybe they don't know how to teach. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's
exactly.
Really hard. Sorry, it is really hard. It took a lot of digging to find this teacher who's really good. And we have lessons once a week here, online. And she made a really good point where we were talking about just the difficulty of the language and stuff. And she was saying how her son had said, like, if learning Japanese is like 10, you know, the max effort you've got to give is like 10 for all the areas, you know, the kanji, all the things you talked about, the verbs, the all the vocab, whatever. The max effort you got to give it is 10. Spanish is like 2. You know what I mean? Like in terms of how accessible the language is and how quickly we can kind of pick it up and go with it. So when I came here, I brought all my books like Genki and stuff like that. I'm still very much like between 5 and 4, you know, N 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and all that.
Stuff.
I'm still very much at the beginning, and the benefit I've got is I work at a Japanese school. So I'm a year 2 teacher, and this school is like a bilingual school. So they've got like, it is a Japanese school through and through, but they have like foreign primary school teachers, high school teachers, blah, blah, blah. And we have our meetings in Japanese, and there's the Japanese teachers sort of like run the school basically, and we're a new addition to that school. So I have to use Japanese every single day, and it does work because you hear it all the time, and subconsciously, even when you're not listening, you're like, oh, there's, you know, like you were talking about a conjugation of a verb or whatever, you might hear it and you'll be, oh, that's it, you know what I mean? And it's on in the background constantly, so you've got that benefit of like tuning in and listening and be like, yeah. But what is really, really difficult now is in Japan, because of COVID, everyone wears masks like all day, every day. And I just can't hear what the hell anyone is saying ever. So I'm not against masks or anything like that. I know they serve their benefit and, you know, their utility with COVID and stuff. But, you know, when you leave the house in Japan, you wear a mask. So like the minute you get out of your apartment, if you're just going to put the bins out or going to buy some milk, you wear a mask. So in that way, you know, there are keywords. So if you're like listening to someone or like trying to have a conversation, you can miss these key words that you know to help you out in a situation, and otherwise you would have got it. So like I'm at a stage now where someone will be talking and I know maybe about 50 or 60% of what they've said, you know, like the words, and I can put it together and go, oh, they mean that, you know, like this is what they mean, and I can get the gist. And probably vice versa. I'm not putting it the right way, but you get the gist, and you know what I'm saying. But to get the gist, you need these key words, but they're being muffled. So now you've like no idea. You know, you're missing these like key anchors to kind of help. So that's and then the students are the same. So I can't hear what they're saying. They can't hear what I'm saying. So we're in this situation now where it's like I can't really see. I mean, you lived in Japan, right? And you know, obviously people wear masks and it's a common thing. But obviously all day, every day.
Yeah, I haven't lived in Japan yet. I haven't been there since 2018. So it's
I've
never lived. I've only been there on holidays, but I want to live there. So I mean, it's going to be difficult if you are classing yourself as a beginner level N5, N4, and the masks will definitely make it more difficult going both ways. So just being able to lip read and hear the sounds properly, so it's gonna make things easier. Especially with me with my accent as well. Having the Welsh accent's quite strong, and I can speak a bit fast as well. So it's
I've got to admit, I was when you were first. I was like, oh, right, I'm gonna have to listen now. But it's just one of those things, and it's just to be mindful of speech and stuff. But yeah, I mean, now you've got to, obviously, it's not impossible. Obviously, people can still learn a language with the maths and stuff, but now you've got to try a bit harder to listen more attentively to what people are saying and things like that. And I've just found it very, very difficult. So I mean, obviously, so when you were here, people obviously didn't wear masks as much, and when I was last here, people didn't wear. So I took it for granted, communication. But now you've got to really, really listen. So yeah, that's one thing. But I think with Japanese is like, I think it just requires so much dedication and so much resilience. Like when I work, my colleagues are like a mixed bag. Some of them are really friendly, and well, they're all really friendly, but some of them are a bit like, because I'm not that great with Japanese, they're a bit hesitant to talk with me, and like it can be this awkward kind of like, thing between us, like striking up a conversation or whatever. But really, like it comes down to just resilience. Of like, there are days I'm like, God, I didn't understand what they were saying, and I've completely gone the wrong. I thought they said this, and it gets really awkward, and it's like, oh God, they think I'm an idiot. And then you just think, I'm never going to get this, and then you've just got to just try again. It's so tough, because last time when I was last here, I was just only hanging out in foreigner bars, foreigner circuits, so I just didn't need to do that. I mean, like my parents like met in Spain when they were younger, and they used to just do the same, like hang out in foreigner bars, and they were like, we didn't work with Spanish people and we didn't need to, and that was fine. But if you want to kind of like get better, obviously you're going to have to break away from that as much as you can. But yeah, I could just talk about it all day, man. How do you find the language? Where are you? I know obviously what you with the Genki stuff, but what would you say? Whereabouts are you with it?
I don't think you'll be able to pass N5 at the moment. I'm probably about halfway through the first Genki book, which is, I think it's, if you finish that, you can probably pass N5 if you've done the kanji and the vocab and grammar and so on. But I haven't completed that yet, so I'm still quite very much beginner pre N5. And the one thing that's taken the most time is the vocab, just getting that in. I'm not even trying with kanji yet. So I see the most important part of learning the language is being able to have a conversation, being able to say what you want to say. So obviously with kanji, it's obviously that's just reading and writing. So, but maybe with everything being so digital, I thought maybe that's not as important as maybe what it was pre-digital, pre-internet type stuff. That was also loads of apps where you can translate an email or a text message or whatever quite easily these days. So I'm more concentrating on vocab, being able to have a conversation with somebody, and learning enough words to be able to ask a question, ask directions, order a meal at a restaurant, do all that basic stuff. At least be able to start a conversation with somebody and kind of understand most of what they are saying. But again, I think not being in Japan and not being a fan of anime, it's finding enough Japanese to listen to, finding something you're interested in at the right level, so you can maybe put a podcast on or a song on or the radio on or something, and be able at the right level to be able to improve my listening and I kind of understand what's going on. To be able to have that, to understand, to listening. I mean, obviously with the masks, you said it's hard to do it in person, but if I could put the Japanese radio that's on, that's all N5, N4 level conversation. Something like that, and that would be kind of perfect.
There is there's something I use. It's called it's Nihongo Kontepi, and I don't think that's a word. It's just the title. So obviously Nihongo Japanese Kontepi, and it is just a guy speaking in Japanese about something, and it's kind of, I think it's aimed at my sort of level, like beginner getting off the ground sort of thing. About going to the shops, or what type of ramen do you prefer? I like boku wa whatever kono ramen no hoga suki or whatever, like I prefer this, and they're just they're on the surface, they're just basic conversations, but he's such a nice dude, and he's really relaxed, and there's some nice intro music, and it's just that format. Each episode is about 10 minutes or something, and it is just basically a subject. And you might talk about me and my sister always fight, and it's like, oh, Chan, it's more, Kincaster, so he just stays around that one central topic, and then you can just listen to all these words, but I don't know what that means, and just write it down. And so I find that really helpful. And I think, in your, I'm just trying to think in your perspective, because obviously here I can just hear it every day, but if I was still in the UK, I'd definitely use that. And even like Netflix, oh man, this is a bit cringy, but I used to watch this thing, it's called Tokyo Girl, and it's like Sex and the City, but in Tokyo. And it's about this girl that works in Tokyo, and she's like an office person, up and coming. And I think it is just for females or whatever. But I used to just watch it because it's modern Japanese being spoken every day.
Yeah.
And it was painful because obviously it was just about what, 30-something female, professional in Tokyo might be going through every day, with fellas and dates, and he's late on this day, but you sometimes you just need to hear what people say in everyday situations, rather than textbooks are great, but they're very sort of like, people just don't talk, like the shoe is on the other foot in a way, because Japanese people that want to learn English will learn textbook stuff that we don't say and talk like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's the problem with everything Genki books. So if I start implementing this, I'm going to be confused on what politeness to use. Do I use mass form, J form, other forms? Or how do I say things? Simple form. Obviously, the politeness is quite an important thing in Japan. It's just saying being how polite you are and things like that. So it's hard to kind of judge what it is unless you're actually in Japan or of a Japanese tutor. I mean, last one I had, I would try and she'd give me homework to write some sentences in what kind of the grammar I'm learning, and go back and I'd say them, and then she'd correct me. But I think the politeness was kind of all over the place for them. I think I talked to her in like she was my friend rather than my teacher, where it's supposed to be maybe a little bit more polite. Well, maybe using mass form rather than simple form or whatever, but it's just she never corrected me on that side of things. But maybe
I was just going to say, a good teacher will do that. Like my teacher is great because what did I say? I said what is it? Something Goroshin is like parents, and I think I didn't, or I said "oh Goroshin" or something like that. I can't remember. But if you put "oh" before something, it's like respectful and like important. I had forgotten to do it or something. Oh no. Okage. Right. It's Okage sama de genki is like, I'm fine. Like how are you doing? Okage sama de genki. Like, I think I'd forgotten to put the O, and she was just like, you should remember to do that. You know what I mean? Like some teachers might get lazy and not pull you up on these little things, but a good one will be like, look, just so you know, like you should probably remember to do that. But generally speaking, like I think, for like I work in a very traditional school, and they've only had foreigners for a short amount of time, but they're very forgiving. So they understand, they can gauge where your Japanese is at, but I don't think they would take it personally if you said, like sometimes I will say, oh, chotto, and I'll be, oh no, I can't, it's going to be Sakoshi. I can't say chotto. Chotto is formal and Chotto is informal and Sakoshi is formal. And you can kind of, that's just an added complication when you're talking to your head teacher or whatever. But they're like, look, it doesn't matter. Just, what do you want to say? You know what I mean? That can happen sometimes, which is good. You get like a blanket of forgiveness most of the time, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. I mean, I mean, it's obviously not, they are my teachers or anything, so I probably won't, maybe
I'd want feedback. Like how can I improve? I'd be constantly asking, probably getting on people's nerves. How can I improve my Japanese? What did I do wrong then? Type of thing. Yeah, they'll most of the time they'll be nice and they'll be fine for you to say things a little bit wrong because you're learning and things like that. But it's like I kind of want to have a little bit of feedback sometimes where I'm going wrong so I can improve. So you never know in 6 months' time, in a year's time, you're in a new job or in a new city or you meet new people and they might hate it. You might be speaking to a new boss and they can't stand what you're saying. They absolutely hate it and not be so patient. So I'm kind of like, be like, okay, you can correct me if you want to. If I'm doing something wrung, let me know.
Yeah,
But,
I think that's the best way to be. And I think another thing is like, I've seen like a lot of foreigners that live in Japan, and like a lot of people speak really good, fluent Japanese. Have always wanted to come to Japan. Have been studying for years, and they're quite. Some people I've seen are quite hostile to if they speak fluent Japanese, they expect only to hear Japanese back. And like what happens with me is like I'll use some Japanese, and people will want to use a bit of English with me, and I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Like, no problem, you know what I mean? And there's some people who are like, oh, like I'm speaking Japanese, you should be speaking Japanese back to me and stuff. But I think it's absolutely fine. Like, some people just want to ask how I am and like, practice what they've learned. And, sometimes I think that's nice, really. I don't mind that. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think I'd mind much of that. It's probably happening more often with COVID because there's obviously less tourism, less English speaking people going there. So there's definitely people in the more touristy areas like Tokyo and Osaka and Kyoto or similar places where there would normally be a lot of English speakers there, where the people who can travel in the travel industry and shops and stuff would be able to communicate in English. Now they can't. So if they do see an English speaker walk in the shop to buy some food, the local family mart or whatever, then they will, you can speak English, and they'll want to speak English with you, even though you've spoken Japanese to them and probably can do it well enough to have a small conversation. They kind of want to have that chat back where before they maybe it was just part of the day. Plus, with English being a big part of their education, now it's going to get into more schools now, isn't it? So I think a lot of parents are looking to learn Japanese and want to use Japanese to help their parents, help the kids as well. For when they come home, they can practice their English a little bit more. So that's happening in kind of in Wales a little bit. Speaking Welsh is getting bigger in Wales. And my sister's got 3 children in a Welsh school. They get taught in Welsh, so they're kind of like bilingual. They're just as good in Welsh as they are in English. So when they're home, they got no one to speak Welsh with. But in school, for 8 hours or whatever they're out there for, they speak in Welsh with their friends, with their teachers, all day. So my sister's like, okay, I need to learn some Welsh now to be able to practice for them, to help them do their homework and things like that. So it might be then the same thing in Japan, where if their children are learning Japanese and the parents are learning English, sorry, not actually Japanese, the parents will want to help a little bit there as well. So they'll try learning a bit more English and they'll become more ingrained, and then they'll see you or another English speaker in their shop or on the street, and they'll want to have a chat with you. And that's great. Come and have a chat with me. I love it. So
I think it's just it's a nice touch, and I think it is nice to do that. But I just while I'm thinking of it, I have so one thing I get told a lot is that I'm still thinking in English. So when I want to formulate something to say, I'm using my English brain to be like, this is what I want to say, so I'll start the conversation this way. And it really doesn't work here like that. You have to switch off your English speaking brain and just do it a completely different way. And it's just counterintuitive to what we have ever done. We want to things that make sense to us just makes absolutely no sense. Like I was at a bar after work, and long story short, some colleagues were already there. They had a round going, and me and my colleague came, and we were all sat together, and I didn't I was like, oh, I'll buy us a drink. And I didn't want to be in that round because we were only staying for one. So I said to the bar person, I was like, Ima, futari biru kaite, ima ii desu ka? And they were just like, what? And I was like, oh, oh no. And I was like, nanka, kono hito tachi wa ima nomimasu, right? They're drinking now, right? Betsu shite, ima, like just trying to kind of like, I know what I want to say and I know the words, but I just can't put them in the order. And I think what it was is like, ima kaite, it's like, can I buy it now? It just didn't work. It was like, I think halal is to purchase something, kaite is to buy. So really what I should have said is like, can I purchase these things now, or something? But in my head, I was like, how is what I've said just completely far away? Like, could you not piece it together? Like what I was trying to mean? It would. So obviously, so what happened was like, they'd have to go and get someone that could speak a bit of English. And it was just like, oh, like, sometimes it's just like, I just want to just give up, man. Like, I'm trying my best, but so there are instances like that things that make sense to me, the words and phrases that make sense to me, I can put them in an order that make logical sense to me, but just don't translate, just do not work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's something that can happen. That's always sticky. So
yeah, I guess that comes with practice. But yeah, I mean, I know a couple of people who've gone the other way, learned English. They weren't Japanese, but they were Italian or French or whatever. And when I first met them, they would take a second from the process it, so they have to translate in the Japanese into their own language and then back again. But obviously, it's easier with Italian and Spanish, like we mentioned before, because there's a lot of their words in the English language through Latin or whatever, or just generally. So it's a lot easier. But it used to take them a second to translate into their own language and then back into English. But over time, over the year, they just started thinking naturally in English. The whole process was in English, just from living in the UK, and they have to speak English all the time because nobody knew Italian, nobody knew Spanish to a level of to be able to translate very well. If she spoke in Italian or Spanish or whatever language they were speaking, if no one really speaks Spanish or Italian or to a high enough level to be able to translate it. There might be some people who are okay at French, who kind of know a little bit, but Spanish, especially, well, the friend I had was Italian, and I know no one that speaks Italian that's British. So she then had to learn English properly, and that just because she's speaking it every day, even though at the start she was a little bit slower translating and making mistakes. Eventually, just through everyday interactions, it just happened. Well, yeah, I think going to a bar, you don't do that every day. I'm guessing, so you don't go drinking every day. But you might, I don't know. But it's not something that I would do very often. So ordering a drink or going for a restaurant and ordering there, it's not something you would do every day. So it's going to be that little bit harder. So context is a big thing as well, I think, where if it's something you would say and do every day, then that will come a lot quicker than something you would do once a week or once a month or a couple of times a year or whatever. So that's the thing with learning the language I'm learning now. I'm like a lot of I'm going through. I kind of separate the vocab into verbs and the different groups and verbs and adjectives and nouns and so on. But I'm like, there's some say verbs. I'm thinking, I'm never going to say that. I'm very rarely going to say that word at all, if ever. So why is it in the very beginning of Genki? If it's a word that I'm very rarely going to say. So yeah, it's fair enough to say to go, to come, to work, to learn or whatever. Imagine that there's a lot of verbs out there that are going to be more popular than others.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. And you've got to get over this. Like sometimes, like I don't want to go and do stuff because I'm like I live with my girlfriend who is Japanese but speaks perfect English and stuff. And there comes a lot of, you know, instances where I'm like, can you just do it? Can you just go and do this for us? And
Yeah.
but really, you know, if I do want to get better, I have to go out and do. So really, I do challenge myself quite a lot to go and do these things. And like recently I had like a flat tire. So I went to the shop and I told them what would happen and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this really nice lady that was serving me, again, that whole thing of like, I can get 60% and then form it. It's like, yeah, oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. She'd said cookie, and cookie means air. And I actually didn't know that. I just not learned the word air before.
Yeah.
So I thought they had like cookies, you know, it's a really like Oshade, like cool shop. And I thought they were like giving out food or something. And I was like, yeah, like, you know, like that'd be, and then it was
a chocolate one, please.
Oh, you know, so if you can kind of like look a bit silly and get over it and stuff, then it will stand you in good stead. But sometimes like you just want to, there are days when it's like, I just want to just do this and just not have the awkwardness and stuff like that. But you just can't kind of control what will happen and what won't. But I mean, she's been really good to talk to about it, because she came to England with no English at all and just worked her way up. And she, you know, I'm always kind of like, I've got these things, you know, the word flip things, really useful. You can put like new words, and I'm like, I've got like 10 of these on the go for like loads of different words. I've got books, I've got textbooks, and I'm always like, where shall I start? I'm writing, you know, diaries and stuff. And she was just like, look, like when I started, I didn't do any of that. I just worked my way up and just, you know, started speaking what I knew. And, you know, I'm very much like, as a teacher, I'm like, well, I should be like doing 2 hours a day or an hour a day of like, you know, in the room and doing the conjugations, doing all the transitive verbs and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I'm sure you can do that. But she got really, really quick in learning English just from just being out every day and using it. And to be honest, like she had some really, you know, in England, we're not, some places are really not, as I'm sure you know, some places are really not forgiving with people that don't speak English. It's like, what are you trying to say? You know what I mean? If you might go to the post office and there might be someone who just hasn't got a great grasp of English, and it's like, oh God, like, you know, the employees might be like, oh, for God's sake, like what, you know, what does she want? Or what do you, so she's had loads of those situations in the UK of like negative sort of instances where she's just been a nuisance because she didn't speak any English. Now, you know, in Japan, you would never get that. You would always get silver service wherever you go. Pretty much, you know, if you went to the city hall and wanted to get a tax thing, it would be done one way or another. Like I'm sure they would help eventually. It could take a very, very long time, but it would be done. But in England, like I remember she was telling me like places were just like, right, just next, who's next? I don't want to, you know what I mean? So that's that benefit, isn't it? In Japan, like you'll always get that kind of help. I think very rarely you just get told, it's like, look, can you just go away now? You know what I mean?
I mean, I think that's big part of why I liked being in Japan so much. I want to come back. I mean, the first night I was in Tokyo for a holiday in 2018, I'd rented an Airbnb, someone's basically spare room in their home, and I couldn't find the address. I'd landed in the airport, I can't remember which one now. And at the airport, I'd messaged the host of the Airbnb. I'm landed, I'm on way, I'll be there in an hour or whatever. And they didn't reply straight away. Okay, maybe they're busy or doing work or whatever. But I got the train to Ibisu, if that's how you pronounce it, in Tokyo. And again, I got off the train at the Ibisu train station, messaged them. I just got off the train at Ibisu. I'm walking up now, I won't be too long. Again, nothing. And I walked up to where I thought the right street was, and it wasn't right. It was, I couldn't find that house number for on that street, and I was like, okay, maybe. But then I messaged them again, and again nothing. Now, good 2 or 3 hours have gone past, and I'm like walking up and down the street. It's getting dark. What do I do? I mean, obviously that comes across, okay, they've got bad service or whatever, but obviously these people work and they do other things as well, so they can't always reply. So, okay. So then I thought, okay, I need to ask directions. Where is this address? I don't know where it is. So I'm asking my knows the address system a little bit better. Just as I thought that, the lady came around the corner. Bear in mind, it was probably 8 o'clock in the evening now, and definitely getting dark. And she was with her young son, couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Now, in the UK, you'd think that if someone was like that and I went on some stranger, I obviously don't look Japanese, walks over to them and in the dark, and I'd understand them being a bit nervous and wanting to get away quick. I'd completely understood that, but they spent about 45 minutes with me, helping me try and find the address. They couldn't find it with me, so they took me to this police office on a corner of a street.
The box Koban.
Yeah. That's the one. I can't remember what they called them there, and there was a telephone in there, and they called the local police officer. I was out obviously walking the streets, and he came on, and he didn't know where the address was when I showed him on my phone. Then he had to get this big map out of the area and try and find it. And then just as they were this lady and the police officer were having the chat, the host rang, and then I handed it to the police officer, and they spoke. Oh, he's in this police office. Come and get him. And then it was fine. But the fact that this lady with her young son, obviously on their way home, had spent so much time with me to help me try and find my accommodation was like, these people are awesome. And it was kind of similar things everywhere I went. I go to a cafe or a shop or a restaurant or wherever. Everyone was just lovely and would go out of their way to help. And it was so clean as well. Everywhere was clean. Everything was running well.
Yeah.
To compare to a big city like, say, London or Manchester or Birmingham in the UK, bins are overflowing. There's chewing gum on the pavement, and there's just mess everywhere, and just you just feel dirty sometimes walking down certain streets. But there wasn't one street like that in Japan, in the biggest city in the world. Everything was spotless. I mean, I'd buy a can of Coke or a bottle of Coke or something to drink on the way to the train station to go somewhere I'm going, and I carried around with me all day because I couldn't find a bin anywhere, because they don't need bins because they're so tidy.
That's another thing. Yeah, I do wish sometimes they'd put a bin out. I do like I might have just like an onigiri wrap, and for God's sake, where just a bin would be great, but.
Yeah.
But no, I know what you mean. But if I'm honest, I'm really sort of like finding it hard in Tokyo. It's just so big, it's just such a huge place. I lived in Osaka for 2 years and then lived in Kobe. So Osaka's like the size of Manchester or whatever. And then Kobe is like, maybe Liverpool or something, Hull or something, like a kind of small coastal town, city, really easy to sort of get around. Tokyo, I never came really to Tokyo when I lived here in the past, and it's just so massive. And I drive, so you can use your UK license here, so you don't have to take a test or anything, which is really good. So I drive a lot to work and stuff, and everything is just miles away. And like when you drive for like an hour or something, if you go in somewhere like Costco or whatever, and it's like an hour or 30 away, you might go over a bridge and it's like another city, and it's like, am I still in Tokyo or what? Do you know what I mean? Like if I was driving to Wales, it's like, I know, you get over, into the peaks and the valleys and all that. It's like, oh, right, I'm not in Manchester, I'm not in the Northwest anymore. I'm now in Wales and Aberystwyth. But it seems like with how big it is, you could just keep driving indefinitely and be in Tokyo. Do you know what I mean? I like one of my first days free, I was in the big tower thing, one of the Tokyo towers, my camera. And I can see the horizon, and I could see like buildings disappearing into the horizon, and I've never ever seen that in my life. Do you know what I mean? I've never seen like city just keep going, You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like if you're in London on the London Eye, you would see like the docks and the Thames and that, and you know, you might see like the end of London and like sort of, I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like just how big it is just crazy, man.
Yeah, it's sprawling, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Like getting around when you were here, did you kind of find that like?
Well, no, I mean, I don't drive, so I mean, I was only in Tokyo for 6 days, so I was on getting the underground buses or whatever. So, and a lot of the stuff I did was kind of localized to central Tokyo anyway. I was like to go Shibuya, Shinjuku, stay on the Ibisu, or I go to into Ginza or whatever, and then went to other places. But it didn't seem to take that long for me to get anywhere on using public transport. So, but it might be obviously different driving if I'm trying to get to the other side of Tokyo or wherever. It might be a little bit more awkward, but I found it okay. I think I did get lost the first day. I think I got on and went the wrong direction. Ended up in somewhere random. Came back, but that's kind of part of the fun. I was going somewhere random. Oh, look, I'm in the outskirts of Tokyo, and I didn't expect to. And then you go and have a walk around. Okay, cool. And then you go back in, and an hour later. But yeah, I found it fine. I found it quite easy to get around. I went there thinking it was going to be like London, and just a pain in the ass to get around. Everywhere taking ages, but it wasn't that bad really, because I found it a lot easier. Even I've obviously been to London, like most Brits, and I've been to New York. And obviously, when I went to Tokyo, I think most people will automatically compare to London and New York if you've been to them. And Tokyo kicked both their asses for getting around. I found it a lot easier to get around, even though obviously the first language you see is Japanese. Obviously, there will be English underneath or whatever, but I found it a lot easier than New York and London, even though that's in my first language, all in English. I found Tokyo easier to get around, especially Tokyo. I haven't spent that much time outside Tokyo, but I found it quite easy to get around. Apart from the one time I got on the wrong train, but that was kind of my own fault for not paying attention more than anything else. But yeah, I mean, New York. I mean, I went there for a week a few years ago, and we went to go to the Empire State Building, and we accidentally got off at the wrong subway station. But when we got to ground level, we could see the Empire State Building. We thought it was just down the road. So, okay, we'll just walk down. It's going to be 12 hours, 20 minutes at most. It'd be nice to walk there rather than being on the underground again. And because I don't know if you've ever been to New York, obviously you've been to a big city, you've been in Tokyo. If you walk down a long street thinking it's going to be close, it's kind of almost an optical illusion sometimes because buildings are so big, they seem closer than what they are.
Right. No, I haven't been, but no, I've heard mixed sort of like opinions about New York. But yeah, I can imagine that sort of optical illusion of like, right, it's there, it's in sight, therefore I can walk to it.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite far away. Yeah.
I think we thought we get there in 15, 20 minutes. Can't be more than a mile away or whatever. About an hour later, we got to it. Thinking, what the hell? I was, you can see it right there. It looked like it was just down the road. No, but 45 minutes to an hour, I think it took us just walking in a straight line. It was kind of nice. We went through Little Italy and a couple of other little places but I think we did anyway. I can't remember exactly. I think I did definitely walk through Little Italy to get to somewhere because we got off the wrong subway. But yeah, that walk was kind of nice because we saw an area of New York we wouldn't have normally seen anyway, so it was kind of fine. But yeah, just to look up, I think obviously the Empire State Building is quite a big building, and I thought, okay, when you were there, madness. But I didn't get that in Japan. Maybe or obviously there's lots of skyscrapers there, but maybe they're not quite as big as what they are in places like New York and other places. Maybe so it wasn't so bad. And I'd spent a lot of time generally on the underground anyway to get around, rather than walking around. So yeah, just the size of the buildings in New York was the problem, and just get the underground system there. It just seems really weird. You'd have 3 or 4 stations with the same name. So
Right.
you'd have to say 34th Street, for example, because it's such a long street, several miles long, a couple of miles long, and you'd have 3 or 4 different subway stations on that one street. So you might think
Right.
you go into one end of it, but actually go into the other end a couple of miles away. So it
Right.
was kind of confusing that you can offer the wrong place or whatever.
Right.
So it obviously they would say the west or east or whatever, but then you forgot or didn't look properly, then you'd end up a couple of miles away. What are you trying to get to? If you're going to see a show on Broadway and you end up 2 miles away and you miss the first 20 minutes, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is kind of like I should imagine I've never been to Cardiff, but I would imagine Cardiff is maybe the same size as Manchester. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe
I think it's
give or
probably
take,
yeah.
give or take. But I mean, if you move to Manchester, if I move to Cardiff, it wouldn't take you very long to kind of suss out which way, you know, like this is over here and this is over here. Do
No,
you know
it
like
won't take
this?
long at all. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Tokyo is just sort of other than like your main spots of like Shinjuku, Shibuya, whatever, there's just so much to kind of see and going on that you'd never I think I like to kind of know where everything is and like in my brain be like, right, well, I'm here and over there is this and blah blah blah. And I don't know, maybe over time like you could kind of get there, but I think my honest preference, like a place like Osaka, is a lot easier. You can do that a lot quicker. You can be like Namba is like the center, and then there's like Shinsai Bashi I can't even say it now. This place Shinsai Bashi is another place that's quite lively and hip, and then there's this place, and in a matter of in a week or two, you can just get your head around it. Do you know what I mean? And know where everything is. But Tokyo is just, I think basically it is just that it is the biggest city in the world. So if you're not used to it, if you're from, the UK, if you're from like where there's a guy I know who's actually from Birmingham, so he doesn't think it's that bad because Birmingham's massive. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, it's not that difficult being from Birmingham.
Yeah.
Birmingham's
Yeah.
like huge. So, yeah, man. I mean, other than that, so what would you, if you move, like, what would you want to do? Have you thought about like career here or?
Well, yeah, I'm currently doing a degree in sales and marketing management, so I'd hope there'll be something related to that. I'm not sure what level of Japanese I'd need to get a job in that. Obviously, would be a certain element of that needed. So yeah, something in that would be great. I mean, with being able to speak English, something in international business development, something that's kind of linked to sales and marketing a little bit. So if there's a say medium-sized company looking to go more international, I need someone who can speak in English and do the English side of things for them, then that would be great. Something like in that kind of area of area would be great. But then, I mean, the backup, I'm not sure what going into being an English teacher is kind of a backup. I think originally I thought, okay, I'll just go and be an alt for the JET program or be an English teacher or something like that. But then the more I've looked into it, they do prefer to be a little bit younger. I'm 43, so I know there's a lot of programs that prefer you to be under 40 or even under 30, I think. So I might be a little bit too old for that.
No, I mean,
But
I don't really get that really because it's kind of people want to learn English here, and I'm very certain that if you were here, you wouldn't find it difficult. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's yeah, I think that's quite weird that that's sort of like you've got to be this age and stuff. But I think really like I think if you were going to start or go into that industry of sales and things like that, then getting set up, kind of getting like a job teaching English first would be probably the best thing because really, I kind of, we use the British curriculum, so I do a lot of planning and marking and stuff like that. But that side, you don't have to do as much. So other than when you are in work, you've got a lot of free time. So that would be something to do. Just kind of, use that as a springboard.
Yeah. Yeah, just a way to get into Japan in the first
100%.
place, and then go from there.
I think it's a bit of a rite of passage, I think, teaching English. I think
Yeah.
if you were going to live here or something, maybe, there's people that haven't, but I think it's quite fun. It's, it can be a laugh, man. And it's a good way to help with Japanese as well, and to kind of get used to speaking to Japanese, even if obviously your job you're not employed to speak Japanese, but I think from a sales point of view, it would be really helpful to kind of like, if you meet salarymen and like meet professionals who come for language lessons, it's just a way to meet them and like kind of like converse with them, you know what I mean? Because there is obviously a lot, you talked about like the etiquette and the politeness and that sort of thing, and that goes a long way and stuff. So but yeah, Tokyo is, obviously I just really like Osaka and Kobe, but Tokyo would definitely be the place for that. So yeah, good luck. Are you sort of like looking for like a date or time to move, or?
Well, yeah, I'm preferring to come as soon as the summer my degree finishes. So it's going to be summer next year. So I've got maybe another 18 months at most until it's finished. So it'll be done, but maybe by June 2023. So hopefully I can get some in that summer then, and just to pack my bags and come over here next year. So I just want to come over here. The whole point of me doing the degree is to have at least some education to be able to come over to Japan. Obviously, if I don't have a degree, then I'm highly unlikely to get a visa or a job in Japan. So, and then even as backup, just having a degree anyway in the UK will help and give me more options anyway. So if I don't end up in Japan and just go on holiday, I've got a degree and better options in the UK anyway. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, summer 2023 is kind of when I want to be moving. As soon as I finish my degree, I want to be kind of, as soon as it's finished and I got my grades, basically the next day, jump on a plane to Japan. And I kind of don't mind where I end up. Probably, obviously, Tokyo would be probably the easy one to transition into, because there would be so many. Obviously, by then would be a lot of more tourists and more English speakers around to make it a little bit easier to transition into Japan. But I think after the first year or whatever, I kind of probably would want to move out of Tokyo to go to the small cities like Osaka or Kyoto or somewhere else to to have a place where I feel a bit more like I'm actually in Japan. Obviously, Tokyo is in Japan, and you have to have the signs and the people there and stuff. But it's so international that probably would rather be in that smaller city, somewhere like Cardiff or Manchester sized, so it's a bit more Japanese. So I kind of know I'm there when you walk down the street. I looks like I'm in Japan, where if there's skyscrapers all around me, then I could be in any major city in the world, any capital city in the world, London, New York, or whatever. So yeah, that would probably be my ideal plan. Obviously, most companies, major companies, would have a head office in Tokyo anyway. So if I'm doing sales or international stuff, it probably would be in Tokyo, highly likely. But it's whatever. I guess I don't have the choice really. It's wherever offers me the job. It's wherever that is, I guess. So that's
Where you
more likely to be, yes, wherever I land. So that's probably going to be Tokyo. So
good stuff.
So yeah. So that's kind of the plan anyway. That's how it's working. I got to pass my degree first, haven't I? So that's the next bit. So cool. So I usually ask this before we kind of end up finishing the video. Was there anything that took you really quite surprised culturally when you moved to Japan? Something that was like, okay, this is taking me back a little bit, really different to what it was like compared to the UK, Manchester?
Probably, so my first time landing, 2012. Let me think. First thing. So I'd landed in Kansai Airport. Osaka's one. And when you land in Kansai Airport, it's like an island thing, and you take a train from there takes you to whereabouts into the center of Osaka or whatever. And I was on this train and I was kind of like coming into the suburbs and stuff. And I'd never seen houses like that, you know, like stacked that way and kind of, you know, in these rows with the roofs on and stuff. And that was the first time I was like, oh my God, I'm not in Manchester anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is certainly not the northwest of England now. And that was a bit like, what have I got myself in for? Do you know, like, it didn't look like anything else. So I was on this train and kind of like everyone else was sort of, you know, this wasn't like holiday season or whatever. There were no other tourists and it was just Japanese people on their phones, whatever. And I was kind of looking out the window like, right, you know, like, where am I, sort of thing. So I'd never been to Asia, never seen like kind of like Asian suburbs or anything like that. So it can be a bit of a like, oh my God, like, where am I, sort of thing. You just, like, you know, you go to London, Wales, Scotland, whatever, or into Europe and stuff, and it generally looks the same, you know what I mean? But obviously Japan is totally different. But home is where you make it, isn't it? And it could be here, it could be Osaka, it could be. But honestly, I think if there's one place, I actually wanted to move a while ago. I was talking to my girlfriend about it. I wanted to move back. I lived in Kobe, and I'm telling you now, I've never lived in a more sort of like accessible, fun town. It's small, but there's like mountains and there's a city and a beach, and it's sort of like, for me, everything you could sort of ask for, you know, in a city. Quite small, easy to, you could be in like the center in like 20 minutes, and it's really sort of easy to get around and lots going on. But as I said, there's also like the hiking, the mountains, and then there's the beach side and stuff like that. I was just like, I don't want to live anywhere else. But obviously, I'd say you've got to go where your job is and that. But I think if you could ever, when you are here, I'd say if you ever get a chance to check out Kobe as like somewhere to live, I couldn't recommend it more, mate. It's
I mean, it kind of sounds similar to somewhere maybe like Swansea in Wales, was quite a small city where you have the Gower Peninsula right there with some really nice beaches like Sealy Bay and stuff. And it's not that far from the Brecon Beacons. It's like maybe an hour drive to the Brecon Beacons, where you got some nice mountain range in South Wales there. So it's probably a similar city, that obviously different, where I'm from Swansea, but I wouldn't move back there because it's kind of not what it used to be. It needs a lot of rejuvenation there and stuff, a lot more money spent on it for it to come back to where it was maybe 20 years ago when I was living there last. It's just kind of got a bit run down a little bit, but yeah, for location wise, for all the beaches and the mountain areas and all that type of stuff, and Swansea's definitely a good place for that. Especially if you drive and you want to go to the Brecon, can get to the Brecon Beacons quite easily, then it's a good place to be, I guess. You get the best of both worlds. There could be places in North Wales as well. Obviously, you got Snowdon up north there as well, so there might be a couple of nice beaches up north there somewhere where you've got Snowdon and then a nice beach as well. Obviously, Cornwall, and also mountainous Cornwall is, but obviously there's nice beaches down there as well. But Swansea instantly popped in my mind compared to Kobe. The beef is definitely not the same, not as good as Kobe. But yeah.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, thanks so much for, as I said, I know obviously last time I was a bit ill, so thanks for being patient, and I've really enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously, thanks for doing it again, and it's been great. Enjoyed being on the chat, and obviously let me know if you want me to do a video for your channel, and I'll also link to that as well in the description. What's the name of the channel again?
Oh, The Great Mooch. I'm trying to sort of like, I'm new to YouTube and I like road cycling, so I'm trying to sort of link that, like being in Japan and stuff, with road cycling, and I'm using like a GoPro and one of these mouth mount things, and trying to film while I'm riding, and it's quite tricky, but it's, I don't know, this is just another thing to think about, but like it is, in terms of YouTube, it's quite difficult to kind of like think of a original idea here, because you could do, you know, like the big YouTube people here, like do kind of the similar thing where, oh, look how different it is, look, you know, like this food is strange, look at how this, you know, convenience stores are different, look at this, and it can be quite, you know, you could just do the same thing, couldn't you, like what it's like, so weird, blah blah blah. So I'm trying to sort of like, I'm in the suburbs, I'm in Hachioji, I'm kind of far out from Tokyo, so I'm trying to kind of like show the suburbs through cycling, and yeah, I'm kind of like, how do I do that, and like trying to kind of build it. So yeah, man, that's it. But yeah, thanks for plugging the channel, I'll hopefully have some time and try and get you on mine and stuff like that. That'd be good.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, I'm not in Japan at the moment, and I haven't got a bike, so it's a bit hard to go cycling with you. So, but if we can,
one day maybe.
Yeah, when I'm over, definitely next summer I'll come over. I'll get myself a road bike. You can show me the good places to go cycling in the Tokyo area or wherever we are. So sounds great. And obviously send me over any links. So if you've got any social media related to YouTube, obviously send them over to me and I'll put them in the description as well, on Instagram or whatever. So great. So obviously thanks very much there, Ben. Great chatting to you, and see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. Take care, mate. Thank you.
See ya.
So there we go. Thanks so much, Ben, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to record this video and share your experiences moving to and living in Japan. I really appreciate you sharing all your insights and experiences with that, so thanks very much. And for you guys watching, what did you get from this video? Is there anything that you didn't know before that you now know, or do you have any questions for us about Ben's journey? Head into the comments and let us know what you think of the video and what Ben had to say, or if you've got any questions, feel free to ask and we'll do our best to get back to you as quick as we can as well. And if you don't want to miss out in future conversational videos like this and other videos from Move to Japan, about moving to Japan or Japan in general, click the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future uploads. And obviously feel free to head back to my own videos as well, other conversational videos and other related videos, and give them a watch as well. And as mentioned in this video as well, Ben has got a channel, it's called The Great Mooch. It's a really cool series of videos, all filmed in Japan. So I posted a link to that channel in the description for you to head over to our look at Ben's channel as well. So feel free to do that, so we can appreciate a few extra views and maybe a few new subscribers as well. So feel free to do that. It's called The Great Mooch, so head over there. So thanks for watching, guys, and again thanks, Ben, for doing this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much. See you later.